and gig workers, everything you need to know. Look, in this training, I want to talk about the step-by-step process of how gig workers could and should be using business credit to be able to fund your actual operations. So it doesn't matter what you're doing as a gig. We're seeing more and more of these type of gigs come up, from DoorDash drivers to people that are driving with Uber or many different other types of gigs. The question is, how do you get financing for that? If you are in a gig, we are in a gig economy. So if you are getting into a gig type business, how can you get money for that? You can do it through business credit. You just need to know the process, the steps. And that's exactly what I'm going to talk about today is business credit and gig workers, what you should know, the exact process you should be going through as a gig worker to be able to tap in and get business credit. So first of all, if you're not familiar, I'm sure you are, but really a gig is, I think, defined as classified as independent contractors or freelancers that basically are doing side gigs. It's how it became kind of a gig economy, not necessarily primary job, like owning a business, right? So these gig workers are facing really unique challenges and have awesome, really good opportunities as well when it comes to establishing business credit, because ultimately you're able to fund a large part of what you're doing using business credit, even though you might not think of having your being set up as an actual business. So we're going to talk about that today as well. So you've got to understand kind of the nuances that you have, how to do this, and why you'd want to do this, so you're actually able to get the funds you need to grow in your business, to grow in the actual gigs economy. So today's stream, that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to dive in. We're going to explain what gig workers are doing and basically how you can step by step get the process to be able to build business credit in an actual gig economy. So first of all, if you are doing a gig, and let's just say Uber driver, for example, right? There's a lot of different types of gigs in this gig economy, then you might not even be thinking of yourself as your own business, but you should be, because there's a tremendous amount of benefits if you set yourself up as an actual business, and you absolutely can set yourself up as an actual business. So if you're in the gig economy now, the first thing you really want to do is you need to separate what you're doing, and you need to start treating it like a real business. So in order to do this, we got to set up an entity, right? You should be setting yourself up at least as a separate LLC for your business. You should be getting an EIN for that business as well. Now, this could apply for real estate agents, for example, that work for a brokerage firm as well. So again, even if you're an employee of another company, but you're doing things internally where you have expenses, you've got things that you're dealing with that carry over to the personal side, you are in a gig, like in the gig economy, you are a real estate agent, in any of those scenarios, you want to do the same thing. You want to separate yourself personally from this business or this gig that you're actually getting into. So you want to get an LLC, you want to get an EIN set up. You want to get a separate address for this business. You want to get a separate phone number for this business. You can use virtual offices, Regis Alliance, DaVinci. You can use Ring Central for phone numbers, for example. You don't necessarily need a website, but a website's going to help you get more approvals. So if you even have a general website that talks generally about what you do. Okay, I think I saw a really funny TikTok where the guy talks about what he does, and he talks about being like a transportation specialist for a multi-billion-dollar conglomerate, and really it was a really fancy way of explaining that he was ultimately just an Uber driver, right? So it's kind of the same thing here. You want to separate and treat yourself as an actual business. You want to come in and have a website that kind of reflects on general terms like what you do, what is your gig. You want to have a professional email address. You want to open a separate bank account to start running funds through. And that's going to give this business credibility as well. And the next thing is you really want to start coming out and you want to start building business credit then once you have this set up. Look, you have to keep in mind, it doesn't matter if you're in the gig economy, you're a real estate agent, you're starting a new business. The first steps in building business credit is to separate yourself personally from this business endeavor that you are actually exploring. Okay, even if it is just an exploration of a business endeavor, if you want to try to get funding for this, the first thing you have to do is separate it from you personally. The world of credit issuers and lenders has to see what you're doing is separate from you personally. They have to see the business as a viable entity that can stand on its own for that entity to ever really truly be able to get funds. And by the way, Mike South is here from St. Louis. Mike, thanks for coming in and saying hello. GDTV. Thank you for coming in and saying hi. And Mike South says, Dior dash LOL. I love that. Yeah, Dior dash. Yeah, exactly. A lot of people come up with a really fancy way of describing what they do in this gig economy. And then Michael's coming in saying, good vibes. Thank you for coming in, Michael. I appreciate you coming in from 25 years in leadership. Congratulations to you, Michael, coming in from YouTube. So the next thing after you start separating yourself from the business is now we want to start funding this new business. We want to fund this new entity that you set up. And you can keep in mind, again, this entity could be something just for you to launch a new business concept. It could be for you to actually successfully launch in the gig space. It could be a real estate agent. It could be anything you're setting up the separate entity for. Then you want to have that entity set up. The next thing we want to do is we want to start really getting credit. And the first step that we take to start getting credit is we want to get set up with Dun & Bradstreet. Experian and Equifax will automatically set us up the minute we get accounts reporting to them. Dun & Bradstreet, we have to take the step of actually getting a DUNS number. So if you've walked through and set up your business where it's fundable, and if you don't know how, you can go to youtube.com/credit suite and just search fundability or search fundability on YouTube, and you'll find our training that goes in depth on how to set up fundability, right? But once you set up that credible business and you're fundable, the next thing we want to start doing is we want to start building business credit. We got to go get our DUNS number. Now you can go to creditsuite.com/DUNS. That's creditsuite.com/DUNS for the shortcut to Dun & Bradstreet to get it done 100% cheap and easy. It's going to take about 10 minutes or 15 minutes for you to fill out the actual application before you get your DUNS number. Everything else I've told you to do this part needs to be done. Entity set up, bank account set up, phone number, email, address, website, all that stuff needs to be set up because it's all going to be asked for when you apply for that DUNS number. You're going to get that DUNS number typically in 1 to 3 weeks, 100% for free. It's the first step of getting set up with D&B, and it's one of the 2 crucial things you have to do to be able to have credit that actually gets reported to D&B. The next thing we want to do is we want to start getting real usable credit. Now, in order to do this, we have to start thinking about what we actually need the money for in our gig. All gigs are going to be different. So a simple example here is if we're looking at DoorDash, or we're looking at, or I think it was great as it was explained by Mike, Dior Dash. If we look at Dior Dash or DoorDash driver, right, a fancy way to say DoorDash driver, well, then we're obviously going to need fuel, right? We're even going to need a vehicle. So fuel cards are probably what we want to shoot for in that area because that's our biggest expense. Like if we are sitting there maintaining our car, repairing our car, fueling our car, in the example of DoorDash or Uber, those are our biggest expenses. That's where we're actually going to need money the most. So we can come in as a starter vendor. The very first credit that we get, we can use, for example, Phillips 76. Phillips 76 will give us credit as a brand new company. They'll give us business credit and give us like 30 days to pay back the credit that we actually use. So right away in the process of starting to build business credit, we can start to build business credit with really viable sources that can actually help us start growing the business. Okay, CEO Creative, they have all kinds of stuff like this, swag like shirts or mugs where we actually have our company's name on it. You know, they also will be able to help us with office supplies. We have Office Garner for office supplies. We have Uline for shipping supplies. So to start building business credit, we want to do it 2 different ways. It doesn't matter which way you choose. Either one of these will get you to the goal. The first goal is that you can use something called Credit Line Hybrid. Credit Line Hybrid, you're able to get 100, 150,000 in credit lines, even as a brand new business. Yeah, even if you are in a good gig business, you can get this, but there's a catch. You have to have a 680, 700 FICO score or higher. You have to have good credit to be able to go down this road of starting to build business credit. Credit Line Hybrid, you have good credit. Someone around you that's willing to be a signer has good credit. You're able to actually use that to get credit lines of $50,000 to $150,000. You can use to actually get your business the things that you need to be able to get. Yeah, even again, as a gig business. Now, if you don't have good credit or someone around you that does, that's when we go look at these starter vendors. Phillips 76, Office Garner, for example, CEO Creative. Okay, these are just some examples. Uline. So we want to find starter vendors that sell the kind of products and services that we actually want to buy and need for our gig. Now, we have a great guide that maps this out. I'll pull it up right now. You can scan this QR code to go to creditsuite.com/EIN. This guide gives you more instructions on setting up your fundability. It gives you more starter vendors you can use. It walks you through the other steps more in depth of building business credit as well. But the goal here is that we want to start building business credit by using credit line hybrid if we have good credit to be able to get a lot of credit lines to fund this endeavor. Or the second thing is using starter vendors, Granger, Uline, CEO Creative, Phillips 76. The starter vendors that we use will be based on what we actually need the money for. Look, a lot of business owners make the mistake of just getting a starter vendor to try to get an account on their business credit reports. That's not the way to do it. What you want to do is you actually want to come in and you want to make sure you're getting credit that you're actually really going to use. So again, if I'm a DoorDash driver, Phillips 76 to fuel my vehicle, repair and maintain my vehicle, I obviously need that because the one thing I need to do my job is gas, and I can constantly use this card for fuel. That reports on my business credit reports and shows that I have a history of actually using the credit. And that's what's going to open me up to being able to get more financing, right? So if we look at where we are in the process, and by the way, if you're just coming in, give me a company shout out. I'll give you a shout out on the stream. William's in here. He says, we build engineered building systems for residential and commercial buildings. That's awesome. And Pierre Robert says, hello, Ty. Love the knowledge. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming in. And I love Pierre Robert because it's ABCDEFGHI Investing LLC in New London, County, Connecticut. So thank you very much for coming in. So to catch you up, if you're just coming in, we're talking about building business credit for gig workers. The first thing you need to do is separate yourself from your business. You're going to want to get a separate LLC. You're going to want to get that EIN, the business bank account set up. We're going to want to get a separate address for the business to a place like Alliance Virtual Offices, a phone number for the business to a place like Ring Central, for example, a website that briefly describes what we do in our gig, okay, and even a professional email address. And now that we have that and a business bank account set up, now we've moved to that next step, which is starting to build business credit. We go to creditsuite.com/DUNS or search free DUNS number to get our free DUNS number after we've done the first step I told you, because all that info is going to be needed. And then we start building initial business credit. And we do that by either getting credit line hybrid, using good personal credit to get credit lines, or using starter vendors like Uline, Granger, Office Garner that actually sell stuff that we need. Either way that we took, we want to use the credit we now were given, and we want to pay that bill on time or early. And in doing so, in a month, those accounts will start to report on our business credit reports. Now, you could go to creditsuite.com/monitoring to get access to business credit monitoring. And that business credit monitoring will then give you the ability to see these accounts you got start reporting on your business credit reports. Now, the next step in this process is, now that we have some accounts on our business credit reports, the next thing that we want to do is we want to come in and we want to start getting retail credit, more credit with retailers. So when we have about 3 to 5 total accounts on our business credit reports, now we can start to get credited almost every major retailer: Staples, Office Depot, Costco, Sam's Club, Lowe's, Home Depot, John Deere, Best Buy, Nordstrom, Macy's, right? Then we can even come down and we're even able to get fuel credit: Phillips 76, BP, Chevron, Conoco, Sunoco. At this point, with about 3 to 5 accounts on our business credit reports, we can start to get credit with these kind of retailers and fuel stations. They're usually going to give us net 30 to net 55 accounts, which gives us 1 to 2 months to pay our bill off in its entirety. And they report that credit to the business credit reporting agencies. As we continue to use this credit and pay it off, then we start to get to revolving credit pretty quick, about 90 days into this process. These revolving credit lines are about 10 to 100 times higher than what we would see with consumer credit. So we no longer need to use our consumer credit cards to fund this endeavor. We now have got corporate credit cards to fund the endeavor. Now, as we use these corporate credit cards, we start building a bigger and bigger and bigger business credit report score. And then we get about 15 accounts on our business credit reports, 14, 15. Now we can get auto financing without a personal guarantee and credit check. Now we can get Visa cards. Now we can get MasterCards. Now we can get American Express cards. So one of our clients got $350,000 in financing at Ford, for example. He went in to buy a vehicle. He ended up launching a Turo business. His credit lines were so high. And he did not use a personal guarantee, no personal liability, and did not use a personal credit check. So it was not linked to him personally. So again, back to the DoorDash example, if that's the gig that you're in, think about what we've now done. We've now separated you from the business and created a whole business around what you're doing. We've now used that business as a way to start getting itself to fund itself by starting to get fuel cards and credit cards in almost every major retailer. So now we're able to buy cool clothes here that we actually need to be able to ride around in the car that we're riding around in. We have the thing that goes on the back of the seat, like the TV that like you play the games on when you're in the back of the Uber. We're able to buy those things as well. We're now able to fuel the vehicle. We're able to clean the vehicle. We're able to repair the vehicle, maintain the vehicle 100% on the credit of the company that we have now built. And as we continue down this path, we're able to get even more credit for a laptop to be able to organize things in the car. I'm able to get a credit line with Apple to have a new iPhone that I'm actually using for my DoorDash or Uber deliveries to be able to run navigation and everything else. And now at this point, I'm actually able to get auto financing. So now, heck, I can go buy a brand new Tesla for that matter, or whatever vehicle I want to buy. I'm able to do that now in the business name. And we're only maybe 4 to 6 months into this entire process. Now, in doing so at this point, we now have a well-established business credit profile. We have a well-established business credit score. We have a separate entity we've set up for this gig. And in the meantime of doing our job, the gig itself, we've actually built a credit profile that's made us lendable to a point where we're now getting $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 limit individual credit cards that report on our business credit reports. Our personal credit, it's untouched. It's just hanging out there. It's still the same. If it was bad, it's still bad. If it's good, it's still good. It doesn't matter. It's not tied into the process. We're not hurting it by funding our business. I'm not using personal credit cards to try to fuel my vehicle to be able to do my job. I'm now able to use business credit cards for that. So my personal credit is still intact. No jeopardy. Nothing has happened to that because I moved everything over to this new business I created. Now I'm even able to buy my own vehicles without a personal guarantee and credit check, maybe even expand this out to a business itself, right? Maybe I recruit somebody else in to be a DoorDash driver too, and I'm covering their expenses to launch even their vehicle because I can fund it all in my business and I'm taking a percentage off the top. All of a sudden, you took a freaking gig of delivering DoorDash, and you made the thing into a whole legitimate business that's got a credit profile where lenders and credit issuers now want to lend to us. Now our money's going to our business bank account, not us personally. We have all kinds of tax incentives because we can write off a lot of what we're doing on our taxes now as well. Now in doing this, now we become lendable. Now it's actually able with this money going to our business bank account to get loans, to get credit lines on top of the credit cards that we actually have. And now at this point, if you are even close to entrepreneur mindset, it's impossible for you not to think about where you could take it from here, how you could grow this, and how you could scale this. Oh, by the way, all as an Uber driver or even a DoorDash driver, just as simple examples of what you can do. So a lot of interesting things you're able to do here. You're able to give yourself more tax incentives, not an accountant, not tax advice, but it's a true thing. You're even able to help eliminate or reduce liability, not an attorney, not legal advice. But now my car is in my LLC's name. So if anybody does anything stupid in the Uber, I get into an accident, my fault or not, they can't even come after me. Now the car is even in my separate LLC name. So there's a level of protection between me and whatever else is going on because everything is now running under the business name as it should. It's not running under you personally. And by the way, Michael says, hey, any no PG gyms like Marathon, Sam's Club, Business World, MasterCard? No, that's absolutely a good topic. So KeyBank has some really good accounts, and Sam's Club MasterCard is in and out. Those are two of my easiest to recommend accounts right now. Marathon, all the fuel stations, all the retailers, Michael, they're almost all offering no personal guarantee, vendor credit if you're buying their products and services as well. And yes, Michael, Verizon is a great business account. A lot of our clients are getting credit lines with Verizon, T-Mobile, Sprint, just by building their business credit. By the way, back to the gig economy, because Michael did that to help me. Again, you can even able to get cell phones on business credit, right? So I'm able to get credit at Verizon. I'm able to get credit lines with T-Mobile. I'm able to get credit at places like Sprint. So I'm now even able to get my cell phone that I'm using to do the gig actually bought and paid for. Even my phone service monthly is all on business credit. So you can see ultimately how deep this goes. So what this does is ultimately it creates more stability and flexibility for you. You're not using personal credit to fund your gig business. You've now set up an entirely new business, and you've actually built a credit profile that helps that business actually start to qualify for loans and start to qualify for credit lines as well, right? You've created income stability. You've also created tax incentives because now you have a business that can write off almost all of your expenses that you're able to do as well. You're able to get away from a lot of personal guarantees. So now you're using credit in the business name without personal guarantees, without personal credit check as well. You're even able to get things along the way to help you track expenses and better manage your financial situation, even managing or keeping track of expenses, being able to create secondary credit cards with authorized users. All of these things you're able to do through multiple business credit building accounts as well. And that allows you to keep more money in your pocket, to actually create an emergency fund as well, and to be able to make more money off of what you're doing, all while creating a legitimate, credible business that you can then venture out of the gig economy and make it into like a full-blown business if that's what you choose to do at this point. Think about it. We started as an Uber driver. Now we're able to get $100,000 in financing for a vehicle. Nothing stops us, if we like driving, to maybe move in and take the business that we've now created and make it a full-blown transportation company. Now maybe we're buying nicer cars, nicer SUVs. We're still using it for Uber, but now we're able to actually expand from doing it as a gig to being its own business. Now I actually have like my own chauffeur service, my own transportation service. Think about it. The financing for the actual vehicle is done. I have computers. I have phones. I'm able to buy a fleet of vehicles at this point in time. I'm able to pay for the fuel of all those vehicles. We just went from a gig business to creating a separate entity, funding that gig business through that, and then literally building enough credit for this business where it could actually stand on its own. Maybe to carry me through. I'm still doing some XL, some of the higher level transportation with Uber, but then I'm actually building my own transportation company. I use business credit to build my website. I use business credit to start marketing and getting me actual customers for this new transportation company I created. And all of a sudden, it's a very short period of time before we've actually segued from just a simple gig economy, doing a gig, to actually legitimately, if we want to, having our own full-blown business in that, doing that thing in that gig that we like, but actually doing it independently for ourselves and getting away from the Goliaths that run some of those industries like DoorDash, Uber, etc. Pretty interesting, right? I mean, that is how we do it, is how we go from basically being a gig worker to building our own entire business by just separating the business from day one. And Kay says, hey, does buy now, pay later apps affect credit score? Can my business apply for these payment plans like Afterpay if they report to the bureaus? Yeah, you absolutely can. What it comes down to is this: do they report to a credit reporting agency? You see, the problem, Kay, is that 90% of trade vendors don't report their credit anywhere. So the problem there is they give you credit, they don't report it, so you don't get credit for it. But if they let you buy now and pay over time and they report that credit to a business credit reporting agency, absolutely that's going to help you build business credit. The key is how often do they report? Who do they report to? Do they report? Those are questions you're going to want to ask before you actually make the decision to use those products or buy those products or services. Michael says, hey, why would my business credit score drop from 86 Experian to 76? So if we look at Experian looks at a lot of factors to calculate your credit score. But the number one factor is how you pay your bills. So if you were 86 and now you're 72, more than likely that reflects that you're not necessarily paying your bills late, but you're paying them later than you were before. So that the direct answer to why my main credit scores would drop is typically you're not paying your payments as timely as you were. Not to say you were late, but you might have been paying the payments earlier than expected, and now you're paying them on time. Even that would drop that score. But most of the time, when your score drops like this with Experian, it really is a result of you actually taking longer time to actually pay those business debts. And Michael says, what is the trick to get fair figure? I'm not exactly sure what that means, but if you ask me that question another way, I will definitely tell you. So there you have it. Okay, that is exactly how we go from gig worker to our own business using business credit to fund the entire journey. Now, if you missed any part of this, go back on YouTube or on Facebook or on LinkedIn, wherever you are, and watch it in its entirety. And you'll see that we went from being gig worker to setting up everything that's needed to set up our own entity, to getting set up with Dun & Bradstreet, to then actually going through and building business credit, and even getting to a point where we can then use that business credit that we've established to launch our entire own business and go from gig worker to actual business owner and entrepreneur, all while having the gig, the Uber, DoorDash, actually basically paying for us to launch our own business if we think about it. They're literally giving us the education, the customer base, even the money, everything we would need to ultimately end up launching our own venture. And while we're working with them, we've launched our own company, we built business credit, we've become lendable, we've been able to fund the whole business by the business setup itself. Like the business literally is funding itself, allowing us to become business owners from even gig workers, if that's what our goal is. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. Hopefully you got value from this training. Go back to Facebook, YouTube, or LinkedIn to watch it in its entirety. And again, if we can help you along the way, let us know. At Credit Suite, this is what we do. We help you improve your fundability to stop denials, get more approvals, better terms, okay, and higher loan amounts. We also help you build business credit, and we help you get financing even if you're just launching a new business. So if we can help you along the way, go to creditsuite.com/consult. And don't forget to scan this QR code to go to creditsuite.com/EIN to grab our step-by-step guide on how to do every step of this process so your business can fund itself and you can even graduate from gig worker to entrepreneur and business owner. Thanks for tuning in. If you got value, make sure you like and subscribe to keep your eye out for our next training. We talk about more cool ways to get the money you need